Hi everyone, I'm Priyanka. After all that chitter chatter, I'm sure you kind of have a feeling for the fact that we're very laid back in this approach, and that's actually on purpose. So that actually bleeds over to about me. The process already has a lot of serious anxiety and everything surrounding it. So I prefer to take a more laid back approach, but we do very strategic, start in advance, and then just keep. And what are the steps? What are the exact steps? What are the references? Everything that you need. So it's a very systematic approach. But especially with my students, I don't really believe in making it a very hardcore, formal, I should say, setup. So it's pretty much a conversation if it's working on college essays, or if it's SAT stuff or ACT or any tutoring, then we're just, again, it's a conversation, but we're getting work done. That's my general approach on this. And if you've been at one of the talks and events that we've done before, thank you so much for coming back. And I guess a little bit more background about me. I have been in the industry for about 10 years, and 11 years ago is when I actually did this. I want to say 11 years ago when I went through the process myself. And then it ended up being sort of a transition to working for the Princeton Review when I was in college. And over time, and this was all in Miami. But when I moved back here, I realized when I moved here, and now there's no longer this company protecting me from all these questions that parents have and the concerns and everything, I realized that there was a huge gap between the knowledge that parents have and the teenagers have and what's actually out there. You don't hear all the information that you need to hear. You don't hear all the knowledge bases, the scholarship information, the testing information on time. You hear it basically when it's sort of a, oh, you need to do that tomorrow type of approach, where you really need to practice for the SAT now so you can take it in a month or 2 months or whatever it might be. So I sort of try and mitigate that by creating timelines. And there's actually one timeline here for seniors, just so we see what's coming up and how this year is going to look, and kind of with COVID and a little bit independent of COVID, what's going to happen. So with that said, a couple of topics we're going to cover today. First, different types of the college applications. Well, we hear of Common App all the time, and that's because it is the most commonly used type of application, but there are other types. This is not to say that you should switch over to that other type. This is simply to point out that if you hear those words and vocab and everything, that it's not frightening to say, or you don't think that you're missing out on something. So I have purposely left out some types of apps because they don't apply to students in the state of Connecticut, let's say, or to this group of students, which really just means that in the state of Connecticut and the East Coast and so forth. Then we're going to talk about the admission cycles. So the 4 different types of admission cycles that are coming our way, along with just approximate deadlines for those. A couple of do's and don'ts for the applications. And for this, we're actually going to jump into the Common App. So I have a Common App account. It's a wonderful fake account, which they let you create, and it's fun. So we're going to look at my Common App account, and I will show you the exact categories that we are going to address, including the recommendations portion. What should you write for your honors and achievements, or for your activities, how you're supposed to approach that. Because there are some things that are just stereotypical, and a lot of teenagers, because they're procrastinating, or because you just want it over with, you'll just BS it. You'll just write whatever it is that's going to get this done the fastest. So I'll show you some of the specifics. And then finally, we're going to link Naviance and Common App together. It's really a 30-second process. Doesn't take very long. But I think the hardest part is just knowing your passwords. That's probably where it comes in. And I'll point out what the relationship between Naviance and Common App actually are. So with that, by the way, if you have any questions at any point along the way, you can either just, because it's a small group, but there's only 9 of us, so you can easily just unmute yourself, and ask the questions, or you can just post in the chat, whatever it is that you're comfortable with. And at the end, we're definitely going to have a question and answer session, and in this case, and I will answer any questions that you have regarding this process, even if it's not just application related. So if we have personal statements, testing, whatever it might be, again, this is just to ease any concerns that you have, so that when summer, whatever's left of summer, is very effective, and you're moving and you're getting things done, so that they don't load up when the school year is actually started, because then you still have schoolwork, and we're going to see how the hybrid method for Barlow is going to play out. There are too many unknowns for when school starts, so it's nicer to just have everything out of the way earlier on. Okay, so the first type of application is the Coalition app. Now, the Coalition app is really dedicated to helping students who have a financial need. And there are only about 150 universities. And I say only because in the country, we have about 2,000 and 4,000 if we're including just the technical colleges or the 2-year colleges, but like a little over 4,000 for now. But we have about 2,000. So these, although it's 150, they actually include some of the topmost universities. So Yale is on this list as well. And a couple other Ivy Leagues or top tier universities. So if in any way, shape, or form you feel that your family could use extra financial assistance in any way, then Coalition app is the one that you want to submit. And if you go on the Coalition app's website, application, I should say the Coalition application's website, then there is a full list of the universities that accept the Coalition application. The next one is the one that we always keep referring to, which is the Common App. And this is just a general application. So before, when we had to do this, Common App existed when I did it too, but it was still on the newer side of things. So not every university used the Common Application, which means that for some of them, we still had to go into the university's website and then create an account and fill it out completely. This was a little annoying because all that general information, the name, the education, the honors activities, the achievements, everything needed to be done over again. So if you were applying to 10 different universities, even a little bit before my time, but if you were applying to 10 different universities, you would have to go on 10 different university websites and fill out this information over and over and over again. So what Common App did is it just took all that combination of all the applications and put it into one website. And that means that general information section that I will show you on our Common App, you only have to fill that out once. And with Common App, when it comes to financial assistance, so there is a box there will be boxes rather per university that will ask you if you would like to be considered for financial assistance or merit-based scholarships. You just have to check those. But again, that's not as strong of an indicator as the Coalition app is, because by submitting the Coalition app, you're saying that you would like help with financial assistance, or you'd like financial assistance. So the next one up, we have system shared, and this really just means that if you have a chain of universities with multiple, or you have one university umbrella, let's say University of California, and you have multiple locations for it. So University of California has Santa Barbara, Irvine, I believe San Diego. There are a couple other branches. So just the one application will help you apply to that. Not really relevant for us. I just included it in case you actually hear about it. This isn't, University of California was just an example, but this is really applicable to any university, even like State University of New York. So SUNY, it's applicable to that, but really just universities that have, again, state universities that just have multiple branches will use the System Shared app. And one of the final ones, Universal app. This was a big deal back 10, 11 years ago when I did this. And I was kind of surprised that they only have 3 universities right now. And it's odd because this used to be the competitor for the Common App. These two used to be sort of the main ones that we used. And now there's not much left. So they may be adding more on. No idea how Universal App is even approaching this anymore. But again, this is to familiarize you with the vocab. I'm not saying that you should be using any of these. Most common one, again, are probably the top 2. Those are usually the ones that most people will be using. So next up, admission cycles. Now, there are a couple different admission cycles, and the first one we're going to talk about is early action. Now, early action is not binding. So really, if you fill out, it's just an application that you submitted earlier on. That's it. And by submitting your application early, for the early application deadline, which tends to be November 1st, November 15th-ish, for the most part, again, that may vary per university. And again, not every university will offer this option. But if it does, usually it's going to be a November deadline. If you submit it, there's nothing at stake here, but you are telling this university that, hey, I'm really interested in attending. So that goes towards your demonstrated interest points, which is sort of like a 1% component of your application. And because most people are procrastinating, so they're going to wait until the regular deadline, early action is a good way to go because you have a smaller pool of students that are competing. And if you don't get accepted in early action, but you're still a strong candidate, but they just happen to fill their seats for early action, then they'll just roll you over to regular admissions, which means you technically have 2 shots at the same university. Why does that matter? Because if, let's say you were told, okay, early action deadline, let's go to a calendar. So let's say early action, a deadline was in November, and you found out, usually you'll find out mid-December before the holidays that you are now that you were accepted or you're waitlisted or you just rolled over to the regular. And if you're rolled over to the regular, well, the deadline for regular tends to be in January. So in this time, you can email the university an update of what you've been up to, of what, again, makes you a better candidate for this university, of any new projects you may have started, any volunteering, or, I mean, in this case with COVID, I don't think anyone's volunteering outside, but if maybe you're helping out with tutoring students, maybe you're helping out with, I have a student who would just have her friends drop off clothes that they weren't going to wear, and then she would leave them, and they would just drop them off in her garage or something. She would leave them there for a couple of days just for COVID purposes, and then she would just sort through them and take them over to the women's shelter in Danbury. And she's also a rising senior, so that's a project that she came up with while COVID was happening. So she still took the same precautions, everything. She did not risk her life or her health because of COVID, but she came up with a community service project that she could do. But that's one option. So that's where early, again, those are the updates that you can provide with early action. Now, early decision is binding. And the way I remember it is that early decisions, a decision is decided. I've decided that I'm going to go to your university. This is it for me. An early decision is a contract. And when I say contract, I mean when you finish this application, this college application, parents will actually receive an email from Common App asking you to read the terms and provide an electronic signature and date it to submit it. So parents are also signing a contract for this that says basically that if I get accepted, I am going to pull my application from all other universities and I'm attending yours. So that's early decision by definition. Deadlines for early decision. Again, if the university offers an early decision option, which pretty much all private universities do and state universities tend not to, but early decision can come in 2 cycles, early decision wave 1 and early decision 2. Again, varies by university. So some might just have the 1 cycle and some might have both. First cycle, or either 1 cycle or first cycle will be for deadline of November 1st, November 15th. And again, students will find out before the holidays here. Second cycle will be January 1st, January 15th, one of those usually, and they'll find out in February. So we're not thinking, there's not a long waiting period for early decision or early action usually. In some cases you find out, if you did a November deadline, you might find out mid to late January, but most common is just the December. Regular, it's just the 1 deadline or whatever the general deadline is of submission. So that's not really a huge explanation point there. And then rolling admissions. So rolling admissions for some universities, well, some universities have them, and that really just says that starting from, let's say, September 2nd or August 1st, whenever that university application season is going to start, to March, such and whatever date it is, we will accept your application whenever you choose to submit it. A month later, we will let you know our decision. So if I submitted in December, I'll find out in January. If I submitted in November, I'll find out in December. So it's really just an ongoing cycle. With that said, of course, as with everything, the earlier the better because they have more open seats to fill. So you don't want to prolong this entire application process. Ideally, it'd be great to have it done by January. Because that's when most deadlines are. However, there are a few lingering deadlines that roll into February or March. So with that said, just a couple of timeline things over the summer. SAT, ACT prep, I know we've had a little bit of a crazy summer because a lot of my students have never taken the SAT before, since they were waiting for the March exam, and then March got canceled, May got canceled, and June got canceled. So 3 SAT exams were canceled, and now they're banking it on the August exam, except there are some centers that have also been canceled. So Shelton got canceled, Weston got canceled, and New Canaan was canceled. And now I have students, I have one student who's going to be driving 6 hours into upstate New York to take her SAT. Her dad has not yet told her that. So he will be breaking that to her probably in the next couple of days. But that unfortunately had to happen, where the test centers have canceled due to COVID, because with SATs, the guidelines, College Board guidelines have stated that students have to wear their mask the entire time of testing. So if it's without the essay, then 3 hours and 15 minutes, because if you include the breaks, and if it's with the essay, then about 4 hours and some change, you're wearing the mask. And the desks have to be 6 feet apart. So we've, some of the issues were just that College Board found, or those test centers found, that there were too many out-of-state registrations, and that's a COVID risk, so they just canceled as a test location. But that's what's going on with the SAT and ACT stuff. Personal statements, if you have not started, you should ideally have a strong draft before school. Actually, what am I saying? School got delayed. You need to have your personal statement done before school starts, because there will be more writing coming your way, depending on the universities you're applying to, because then you will also have something called supplemental essays. And supplemental essays are extra essays on top of your general writing. So personal statements refer to questions like, what are the obstacles you may have faced, or tell us about an experience that changed you, or a belief that you may have challenged, or some part of your identity that you just feel that you have to share because your application needs to convey that this is important to you. Some sort of a topic of your personal life and experience. But then your supplemental topics can be, again, if the university has it. So NYU has sort of a why NYU, Syracuse has why Syracuse, or why did you pick the major that you did? American University has, again, why American. And supplemental topics are now about the university and your relationship with it. So what do you hope to get out of it? That requires research. You cannot simply say that you really like the ambiance and you did a college tour once, or your older brother or sister goes there and you really like the diversity, you like the campus. You can't say that. Or you really like the city. That's my favorite one. You can't say you really like the city. So if you're applying to American University and you say, I really want to be in DC, if I'm an admissions officer reading this, my reaction is going to be, okay, great, but there are other universities in DC. So why do I care that you want to be here? So in that case, you have to do research and say, okay, here are the professors that you have that can serve as mentors. Here are the programs that you have. Maybe it's a specific study abroad program. Maybe it's a student organization. Maybe it's also to the career center that's going to help you out. So you have to find the specific or research opportunities, whatever it might be that's appealing to you about this particular university. That requires time. It's not quick. It's really an in-depth research, because you're kind of planning out. It's twofold. One, you're telling the university that no one but you will do, because of, here's a list of the reasons. You have the right professors. Here's such and such professor who, and the specific name with credentials, right, of just here's why his research and his field of study is appealing, because that's something I want to go into. So you're not just telling the university that, yeah, no one but you will do, but you're also planning out kind of your life, because when decisions start coming around in March, you're going to have a lot of acceptances and you have to make decisions on, okay, well, which university do I want to go to? It's nice to have sort of these lists and that say, okay, wait, I remember I really like this program, the study abroad. Oh yeah, this university also had this extra advising that was helpful. Because you've already done the research, so you don't have to spend too much time thinking about it when March comes. And complete and start applications, again, that's because college application, your Common App opened up August 1st. So as of right now, yeah, you can apply to universities. And actually that week, some of my students texted and said, it's actually really frightening that I can now apply to college, but that's what it is. SATs at this point, again, September is going to happen. And with Barlow, I believe September 23rd is the in-school exam for all of you seniors that did not have the opportunity to take that March exam. The in-state sponsored March exam. So you will have that opportunity, and I believe it's September 23rd is the finalized date for Barlow. And if not, then there's also a September 26th national exam that's in play. With COVID and everything, we don't know how the October, November, December will play out. The October SAT is the weekend right after the September 26th exam. So just a quick note, September has 2 SAT exams. One is the one that students will be taking in school, which is on September 23rd. I believe it's a Wednesday. And then the other one's on that Saturday. The one that's that Saturday is national exam. The one that's on the 23rd is just a Barlow / the state of Connecticut. So the October exam is the weekend right after the national exam. And then November, December, again, with COVID, that's really hard to tell what's going to happen. But your job is to maintain your grades and all of that fun stuff that you've been doing. Just hold on a little bit longer, because then, again, interviews, if you have them, they're usually going to be, if you have interviews, you should register for them. So there are a couple ways interviews work, but if you are going to be taking an interview, you should register for them, and they're usually done via Skype, FaceTime, Zoom, whatever the online is, and that was already an option even before COVID happened. So this now everything just instead of in person moved to online. Decisions you'll come back to in March or beginning of April, and May 1st is the commitment day. Make sure you send in final transcripts, and we'll talk about transcripts in the next part. So do's and don'ts. Now I'm going to stop screen share and we're going to go on the internet. So there we go. So this is the Common App page. This is the link I sent you guys. So log in, first year students. And then we're just going to go with this one. Let's see if, oh, that looks a little too long for my password. I wonder if that's it. I think I copied and pasted something else before then. Oh, I copied and pasted the link. That's what it is. Okay, so let's do this one. Once you get into the account, the first thing you will see is the dashboard. And the dashboard right here is pretty much a list of all the universities in alphabetical order that you thought about applying to. Now, some of these in some way, shape, or form have been some sort of a student, and I just showed them how to get to it. But if you click on college search, this is where you just enter the name of the university that you want. So University of, let's say, Florida. Once you found it, you just hit the plus sign, and that adds the college to your dashboard and to your official college list. Before we go a little bit into this official college list, let's talk about the Common App and, like I said, the do's and don'ts. So first part is personal information. Great. That's, again, fill out whatever is necessary for this part. You have the address, contact details, demographics, geography. Go for any of this that is relevant. This is a fee waiver, so anytime if you apply that, and then you have family. So one thing, even if you just don't feel like filling this application out right here, right now, make sure you pick your high school first, because otherwise we can't link it to your Naviance. So at least pick out your high school. Nothing else, you don't have to worry about it yet. Now, not a boarding school, etc. You have all of this. So where it says honors, these are academic achievements. So for example, with Barlow, you have the writing portfolio. That's also an academic achievement. So an honor roll counts in here. And once you click on yes, it's going to open up and it will let you put in up to 5. So pick your top 5. Even if you have more than 5, just pick your top 5. Honor roll, let's say, in maybe 9th grade, 10th grade. We don't know about senior year because it hasn't started yet. What level of recognition was it? A science fair comes in. Like I said, the junior writing portfolio comes in, because that's an actual project. It's not just a paper, like the history paper that you wrote. Then future plans is just would you consider going for an extra degree? And then testing. So testing, that's again, test taken, AP exams, and they will trust you to submit your scores here, which means official score report you can send a little bit later on. And then activities. So when it comes to activities, now here, you can submit up to 10 activities. So let me first show you that. Right here, 9 out of 10. So you can submit up to 10 activities and just add another activity is how you get to it. Going back to the top, so type of activity, I think I probably just, so you have activities to report, yes, and this will pop up. Now, pick whatever category the activity falls into. Does not honestly, that's all you. Leadership position, again, description, organization, name. Now here, like I've written, it says, please describe the activity, including what you've accomplished and any recognition you received. Write down what you've learned. And so a lot of students just write down the job description of, well, we met 3 times a week or 3 times a month to educate the students about the environment or whatever it may be. Okay, cool. Kind of figured that out from the name. If I were an admissions officer and I've seen just about every variation of how this application could go, because it's my job and I've gone through thousands of applications, I could kind of figure that out from here. But what I want to know is, how did you become a person? What lessons did you learn from this? So your activity does not need to be some wonderful Nobel Prize winning or even nominating or nominee. I said that wrong. Potential Nobel Prize winner. And you don't have to go abroad to a different country to help out. You could have worked in an ice cream store. I have a student who does that, and I know if you go into Ridgefield, then some of those ice cream stores or some of the restaurants they do have high school students working there. Not the most, I guess, beautiful job that you can ever write about. It's not the most fascinating, but no one cares. Admissions officers understand that as minors, your options are very limited. I mean, you can't even volunteer at an animal shelter because you're not 18. So your options are limited. Really what they want to know is, great, what did you get out of this experience? And it's 150 characters, which really is about 50 words. So there's not a lot of space. I recommend writing it on a Word document and then just copying it, pasting it over, because if you keep writing over, this is just going to keep sliding. And you're not going to see the first part of what you've written. So there's that. And then continuation, if you're doing a sport or something that's very seasonal, they know that you're not going to be able to give the exact number of hours or the exact number of weeks. So provide the best approximate that you can for this part. Excuse me. And finally, it's okay if you do not intend to pursue a similar activity in college. That is perfectly fine. They're not expecting that you have to in any way, shape, or form. They just want to know roughly just where do you stand with the activities that you're in. That's all. So that's not going to count against you if you don't want to pursue something in college. Now, yeah.
Hi, I have a question. So at Barlow, I know that the music program is graded as a class, for example, band. Would that also count as an activity, or could you not list it as an activity because it's also a class on the resume?
Well, was it done outside of school hours?
Well, concerts and practicing at home, but it's treated as an academic subject and you get a grade and it's on your transcript.
Okay, so I would probably just call that, you can call it an activity if you want. That's really, it will definitely be in your transcript for sure. And then if we were talking about home practice, I might even say, okay, but that's homework. And then you have your performance. So really there's an argument for it either way. It really just depends on how important is it to you? And then can you provide a description of what you've learned, a good description of what you've learned from it? And
okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So that's such a diplomatic answer. I never knew I had it in me. Because I'm usually the one that's told, like, you need to be a little more diplomatic. But okay, so really I would probably just go ahead and list it as an activity. And then I think I probably need to emphasize this too, is it doesn't matter what you've done in any sort of activity. What always matters is how you tell the story. So always be careful, and especially with all you teenagers who really just want to get this part over with, just get all of this application part over with, because it is really boring. And I usually tell my students, just do the rest of it in front of the TV, and then what you have to think about, do that another day, or when you actually have time. But it's all about how you tell the story. So then next part is the writing. So your personal statement that we talked about, your college essay, again, this is really just saying that you're gonna submit your college essay, and then of my list, here are just the universities that require it and the one that doesn't. really this is just describing in a huge paragraph that you're just going to be telling us about you. And please don't tell us something that we've already read about you. So with that said, the prompts are these 7 topics, and you can even find them outside of the Common App, just in the general Common App website. So it's publicly available without creating an account. But just in case you have not had the chance to read them, these are the 7 topics. The last topic of share an essay of your own choice will always be there. And these are actually the same topics that were used in last year's admission cycle. So they're just recycled. Basically, you choose the one that appeals to you, and then you just copy and paste it down here. So down here, it can stretch out if you really want it to. There we go. And really, this is where you really just be copying and pasting it. Minimum 250 words, maximum 650 words. So it will not let you type a letter past that 650. So if you're trying to add an I in somewhere or an A in somewhere, it will not let you move. That's how strict it is with the word count. Now, one warning I do give, which is definitely part of the do's and don'ts, with this, share your personality. Something that again, are you funny? Are you witty? Are you curious? Are you adventurous? Whatever it might be about you. And I will show you a resource for the college essay stuff, but I know the library also has a college essay session coming up. So there is a speaker on that who will elaborate, but I will just show you easy resources and examples. And the library's resource page also has these examples. And I will, again, at the end, we'll talk about the resources for these topics. But main point here, do not talk about, there are a couple of things you do not talk about. So first one, do not mention any mental health or physical health injuries or something that you may have recovered from. Now, I have students who have had depression, anxiety, who may have had concussions at some point, and basically their GPAs took a hit. And they really want this university to know that my GPA is not an accurate reflection of who I am as a student. So that's understandable, but the personal essay is not where you do it. You do that down here where it says additional information. So if there are any extenuating circumstances that you would really like that you just want to include in your application, then you have another 650 words to just seriously and directly address this concern. So I've also had students who were diagnosed with ADHD later on, so maybe in 10th grade or between 10th and 11th grade. And that means that so far in 9th grade and 10th grade, their GPAs were not as great. So again, anything could have happened, but your personal essay is not where you mention any of that. Stay away from cliches. And the one I like to use is the fact that I'm Indian. I know, surprise. I think the name might have given it away, but surprise. And that means there's a cultural stereotype that goes with Indians, which is that we're good with math and science. And I am totally stereotypically Indian because I was part of the Math Honor Society when I was in high school. I know, not breaking those stereotypes, but what that means, if that Math Honor Society really was just something I did, but it's not very meaningful, I shouldn't write my personal statement on that. That's what every other person is doing. So I'm not going to desperately grasp for that topic. Same thing if you're an athlete or you're trying to be recruited as an athlete, don't write about your sport. Your folder already has this huge stamp on it that says recruited soccer player or potentially recruited soccer player or potential diver or whatever it is. There's a huge stamp on your application that says that. We already know that's what you do. Tell us some other side of you, something new, something we didn't read about in your activities and honors and achievements and any part of your application. Introduce us to you outside of that school setting, outside of that activity. So there are a couple of just do nots. And even Barlow's website actually has this included. So like I've said, at the end, I will show you where all of these resources are. Just don't want to keep jumping around with websites. Courses and grades. So these are rough, just I'm able to obtain a copy. So with your transcripts, because again, we're with Barlow and Barlow has Naviance, Naviance will be the main source of how transcripts get passed on. So just, I guess this is probably a good time to mention what Naviance does and what it is. I think everyone's kind of familiar with what Naviance does in terms of the college search. because you may have even entered it. That's where you look at your GPA. But then in terms of a college search, so this is the application, but there are two components of the application that come from the high school, and those are your transcripts and your recommendations. And what Naviance does, it's the middleman between Common App and your high school. So basically your teachers will upload your recommendations to Naviance. Naviance will then pass them on to Common App, and Common App will then pass them on to the universities, whichever ones they may be. And same thing with the transcripts. So recommendations and transcripts, high school will post on Naviance. Naviance may either directly send it to the university or will pass it on to Common App, and Common App will take the entire package and just send it over to whichever university. And that's why any recommendations that you, or any requests that you need to make for your recommendations need to go through Naviance. And any transcript requests also need to go through Naviance, unless you're applying international, in which case just directly reach out to your counselor, and your counselor will give you your transcripts or send them in directly via however, whatever mode that they use. So with that said, my colleges. Now, with my colleges, again, the universities are listed out here. So remember that Common App was the general tab. This is all the general information that's going to be sent to every university. But then every university has a couple of different requirements. So when you click on them, you'll find out the application deadlines, the basic other information, how much they charge, testing policy, and test flexible means that instead of SATs, ACTs, you can submit other scores instead. So you can submit 3 SAT subject test scores, which subject tests are 1 hour long exams. They are core content on whichever topic you choose. So if it's biology, then you'd better know your biology. If it's math, you'd really better know your math, because this isn't the exam that you can, I guess, wiggle your way around like normal SAT is. This one's a core content, straight up questions type of exam, but it's always 1 hour and it's always multiple choice. Or it could be 3 AP exam scores. So that's what a flexible university means. And then you have recommendations, and just they tell you which ones are required. They tell you your transcripts. NYU or is this NYU? I believe so. Is going to require your mid-year transcript. So basically the one that you would be sending in now, or rather in January, and also your finals. So if you decide to attend NYU, they're going to want your final transcript. That didn't exist when I was applying, but we totally messed it up for all of you, because after our applications were done and our transcripts were sent in, we all started slacking in school, and then universities just wanted to see some sort of character, basically. So they said, no, we are going to ask for your final grades. You don't just get to get away with it. So to all you seniors out there, you're welcome for that. Questions. So again, these are all going to vary by university. So in this case, NYU has this general questions. Would you like to consider a second campus of interest? And then when you have academics, family, etc., if there are any supplementals, this is where they will be, or this is where they will be. Let's see, if they put it under academics in this case for NYU. They label this differently. It really just changes by college. But if you just keep clicking around through these pages, you'll find the supplemental. So in this case with NYU, they posted it under academics. And then of course, why NYU? 400 words, which is actually a pretty high limit for a supplemental. Usually supplementals tend to be anywhere from 150 to 250 words, equivalent of about 2 paragraphs. Seems less and nice, but remember, you also have to mention the programs, whatever it is, the teacher, the professors, any areas of interest that you find relevant to that university. So sometimes that could be a struggle. All right. So that is all the general information when it comes to the, let me see if I can't undo this. Oh, well, let's see what happens if I do this. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, I can't edit, but that's okay. So I'm gonna quickly just switch back. And for all of you that now need to link to Naviance, actually, just quickly in the chat, how many of you need to actually link and how many of you have already just done it? Because I know we have 3 teenagers on the call and I don't want to bother you guys if you've already done it, then I need to link it. Okay, good. 1 person's enough. I just need 1 validation. Okay, so if you need to link it, open up your Common App account and also your your Naviance accounts just at the same time because it'll go quickly. Like I said, it'll take 30 seconds to do. And I'm actually going to share my desktop so I can switch between screens. So when you get to your Common App account, go ahead and pick, if you haven't picked a university, just type in one university to get it on your dashboard, because really this form just needs to be signed one time. So pick a university and just get it onto your college's list. And then once you're there, click on the recommenders and FERPA. And mine is already signed, so I'm just gonna switch over to my PowerPoint, which has a screenshot I took from one of my students. But this is not what it will look like. You'll actually get a notification. And actually at this point, for all you seniors, if you could unmute yourselves just to let me know how far you are, because otherwise I'll keep going and you might fall behind, and we just may not know. So is everyone on this?
I'm not.
Okay, how far are you?
I added one school, and I'm just trying to get to the page where you are now.
Okay, and did you also make sure that in your Common App tab, you put in Barlow as your high school?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So now when you get to colleges, you just click on.
Okay, I'm there.
All right, so now it's gonna say complete release authorization.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so go ahead and click on that.
Okay.
And really, that's all that's saying is you're waiving the right to look at your recommendation. That's
Okay.
what it says. And then go ahead, you're just gonna get two little screens, and that's gonna be the FERPA form, because you acknowledge it, so make sure you check the right boxes. There should be an acknowledge box, and there should be a waive the right, my right box.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's probably the other way around. Yeah, and then there should be a last point where you have to provide your electronic signature. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I know we have, I believe it was Jonas is the other, we have a couple teenagers on here. So guys, give me a heads up. I know we have Lily on here who's talking, and then Aiden is also on here. Are you guys already done with this, or are you working on it? And should I slow down, or all okay? All right. So. All right, Lily, good?
Oh yeah, I saved and closed that.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So then, now you switch over to your Naviance.
Okay.
And on your Naviance main page, you're going to have a little tab right here that says, on your main page, it says, colleges I'm applying to.
Yeah, I have that.
Okay, click on that. And on the top, you'll have a pink box that says match account.
Yeah.
Click on it.
And
then all your email and your birthday, which I think is usually just auto-filled out for you. And you match accounts, and you're done.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. And all that means, just make sure that while you do this, you also ask your teachers for recommendations. Because again, now when it's basically everything can upload directly onto Common App. So you're done, the connection has happened. So now you have to make sure that you request your recommendations through Common App, not just you emailed the teacher and they had it, but it has to be done through Common App, or through Common App.
Okay, so I have a question. Obviously today I linked the accounts, but also today, before this, one of my teachers put in my recommendation on Naviance. Is that fine that it was before I linked the accounts?
Yeah, because then you'll also pick which universities you want to send them to.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, and then once you get that done, so now what's going to happen, and this is what your form's going to look like, just like mine does. Your teacher, like it says that your school uses Naviance, so this is going to get taken care of. Your counselor is going to be taken care of via Naviance. Your teacher recommendations are going to be taken care of via Naviance. And then your other, so with other, if let's say you have a coach, somebody else, family, friend, depending on what this university is asking for or who you'd like to invite, just click on the other recommender. Once you provide the email address and the information, that person will receive an invite with a link. All they have to do, but it's really effort, but they'll have to write your recommendation and then just upload it onto that link. So once again, you are not seeing that recommendation unless that person independently of Common App sends it to you, right? If they just decide to email it to you, that's completely up to them, but they're not obligated to via Common App. With recommendations, the policy, no more than 3. So we're going to ignore the counselor recommendation because that one's just a generic one that the counselor just has to send out. And it's really just a very simple, what words come to mind and how would you describe the student? How long have you known the student? And then any comments basically that you feel you want to tell. So it's a very generic one. So not including that one, 3 max, because after that, universities are going to think you're trying to hide something. And that's actually come from universities that have said, yeah, we're going to look a little closer if you try and overcompensate basically for a recommendation that you're just sending in 5 when we only really wanted 2 or 3. So 3 is a good cutoff. That doesn't mean you have to find 3 and you have to absolutely send in 3. That's just the maximum cutoff.
Question, do you feel like maybe, is that still true this year in the unusual circumstances of, like, what if you're not able to take the SAT, or because some extracurriculars might not be happening, or things? I feel like it's kind of a weird year.
Yeah.
And so, like, let's say you've been doing an online internship for the whole summer. That would be great to have something from that person or something like that. And, like, do you have to have 2 teachers and then so you can only have 1 extracurricular, or you could decide just 1 teacher and 2 extracurriculars? Or
it's up to you how you shuffle it up, but the university, so you see how it says required 1, optional 1, and required 0, optional 1, that actually changes up. So if I click on a different university, those requirements are going to change. So it's your call as to how you want to split this up. But total, when you add them up, there should be no more than 3. So if you prefer 1 teacher here and then 2 others, maybe a coach from an activity or an internship supervisor, in which case, again, internship supervisor, you would invite that other person via this feature. But you want to get that done as soon as possible. And when you're inviting recommenders, especially the others, because Naviance already has to write a paragraph, but for anyone else, when you shoot them an email and just bullet point, remind them of any specific events or something. That way, you're basically respecting their time and saying, I know you have a lot going on. So here are just a few things to help you jog your memory. So you're not it's sort of out of respect for them, and make sure it comes as an out of respect for them. Because I've also had students say, how do you not sound arrogant? Or like, if you're trying to force them to write this for you. But it's really just out of respect of everyone else they come across. Just wanted to give you a reminder of these activities and these memories that we've had, or these projects I've worked on, whatever it might be. Just so you get something that's a non-generic recommendation of how wonderful it is to work with such and such a hard worker, and such a great kid, or whatever they put on there. So yeah, and like I said, for every university, that's just going to vary. So let's see what it says. Right, and this one says 0 required for teacher, but you can submit up to 4, but no other option is available in this case, only advisor. So that's going to vary by university anyway. Okay, and then finally, when you have to actually be done with it, you just review and submit. So I mean, in this case, they're telling me everything's empty. Whoops, my bad. Considering I'm not applying to college, that's okay. But finally, when you are done with every other portion, this will let you move forward. And then when you move forward, it will show you a PDF version of your entire application, so you can just review everything, make sure that actually says what you want it to say. And then after that, you can, when you hit submit, it'll take you to the fee payment page. And that's when you grab your parents' credit card and put in that number and pay the application fee, and then confetti comes up. So that's how they help you celebrate. Every time you hit submit, there's confetti all over this website. So that is, in summation, the Common App. And do we have any questions on the Common App? Okay. Well, in that case, so then match birthday, etc. So yeah, and one more thing before we just go to the libraries page and just any other resources, I want to make sure I show you. Actually, so let's, yeah, you should still be able to see my screen. So if we're on the Mark Twain Libraries main page, let's do that now. So if we're on the library's main page, then from here, there's a tab right here that says College Bound, and it says, again, just when you click on it, so yeah, it takes us to the 2 last presentations that we've done, which are also available on the library's YouTube page. But more so, and I'm just gonna go ahead and zoom in on this. I didn't realize I was that zoomed out, but yeah, so this will take us to the SAT, ACT, just information, the college search information, personal statements. So I know some of the students are still working on personal statements. So the Johns Hopkins Essays That Worked is a really good resource because it actually, Johns Hopkins every year will publish the top essay, 6 to 8 essays really, from students. And the best part, because some universities do submit these essays that worked, but the best part about Johns Hopkins, they will also submit the admissions committee's comments, because there are essays you will look at and say, I don't get it. I have zero idea why this is even allowed to be on the website. It's not that great. And then you look at the admissions committee's comments and you realize, okay, so now we see what they took out of it. But these are examples, and there are 6 from this year, but if you scroll all the way down, there's a bit of an archive. So you'll have about 30, 35 essays that you can use as reference points for formatting, for just topic ideas of how did this kid get the reader's attention. Again, remember, the reader is not only a stranger, but it's a stranger who has been doing this all day and has been over 100 personal statements on the same topics. So what is it about this student's introduction, about this essay that was engaging, that kept this person's attention? These are all, and what kind of emotions did they invoke? These are the types of questions that you want to ask yourself when you're writing. And what did you learn about the student from this writing piece? So that's one thing. And then Barlow also has the Writing Center. And then, so Joe Barlow, high school, and then I actually want to do college resources. So I believe it's under, you know what, let's do college essay. Because I realized this during one of my other sessions, that when someone else actually pointed it out, that there's actually a huge archive on college essay resources, including just what not to do. We have essay hacks everyone needs to know, brainstorming exercises, college essays that worked, more examples, submit, general tips, and topics to avoid. Like I said, and avoid injuries as your personal statement, avoid cliches, don't make stuff up, all of you seniors. I've had students who made stuff up. I've had friends who made stuff up, including BSing a whole trip to somewhere abroad and claiming that was a life-changing moment. Don't do that. Let's keep things a little more ethical. But so you have 2 major resources. Again, you have the libraries page and you have the Barlow's Writing Center. So, and the libraries page will take you to the Johns Hopkins, but you know what? I'm also just gonna go ahead and send you guys this link in the chat. So let's actually just, you know what, let's just keep adding to the chat. So these are the college resources. And then, and the link to the Writing Center. And that way you can just have all these tabs pulled up if you want them. So those are all in the chat right now. Exiting from that, so that Common App will just leave up for now. Library also has this, the YouTube page. And again, that can also be found on the library's page. We have a couple of videos. There's just how to find the right college, in case you're still looking for the right college, and someone from CollegeWise, I believe Matt from CollegeWise did that presentation. So there's that one. And then I did a couple of breakdowns as well, because the other presentations were too long and I realized no one wants to sit there that long listening to those presentations. So we shortened things out. So those are the couple of resources. And again, Common App link is right here for the library. The Coalition app is also here for library. Any financial aid, so the 2 major ones are the FAFSA form and the CSS profile. FAFSA form is completely free. CSS profile, ironically, you have to pay to apply to for financial aid for 400 universities. It's done through College Board. And then of course, any scholarship search information is also available on this website. So those are the major sources. If you have any questions, please let me know. And also, if you'd like to sign up for just weekly updates, then whoops, that's not what I meant to do, just kidding. Then you can also do that. And weekly updates, they're really just in bullet point format with what you need to know and the link to that resource. So it's not really that wordy. No one's spending too much time on basically writing up a huge thing. But if it's a relevant blog post, if it's a relevant video, then I just post it in there. So if you'd like to, then please go ahead and fill out this Google form, because the website is currently under construction and I cannot have you go directly to the website and do that. So that's it. Thank you so much for coming, and please let me know if you have any questions. This would be a good time. If you want to type it up, then please go ahead with that too.